People think the Everglades are quiet at night. They're not. That was the first thing I learned. The swamp does not sleep. It breathes. It clicks. It croaks. It splashes. It hisses through sawgrass and mangrove roots. It whispers in insects, water, wings, and things dragging themselves through mud where your flashlight cannot reach. During the day, the Everglades look endless. At night, they look hungry. I became a game warden because I thought I understood wilderness. I grew up fishing canals, hiking trails, camping in bad weather, and handling wildlife calls with my uncle when he worked county animal control. I had seen gators in drainage ditches, snakes in garages, bobcats crossing highways, and tourists trying to take selfies with animals that could remove fingers. I thought danger in the wild was simple. Respect the animal. Know the terrain. Carry the right gear. Don't panic. That was before I got assigned to the Southern Everglades station. The station sat at the end of a narrow service road that barely deserved to be called a road. It ran through miles of wetland, past cypress domes, canals, and waterlogged grass flats, until it reached a raised patch of land with one ranger building, one boathouse, one fuel shed, a rusted radio tower, and a dock that extended into black water. The station's official name was Station 9B. Nobody called it that. The older wardens called it Mudwater. I found out why my first day. You couldn't take 3 steps without mud sticking to your boots. The air smelled like brackish water, rotting plants, diesel, sunscreen, fish, and something older underneath. The kind of smell that made you think of bones sinking slowly where no one would find them. There were 4 people stationed there when I arrived. Captain Delacroix, the supervisor, who had worked Everglades wildlife enforcement for 32 years and looked like every mosquito in Florida had personally failed to kill him. Mara Bell, senior warden, late 30s, quiet, sharp, and so calm it made her unsettling. Luis Ortega, boat mechanic and part-time dispatcher, who knew every engine, radio, pump, and generator on the property. And me, new hire, fresh uniform, clean boots, still dumb enough to think training covered everything. Delacroix gave me the official tour first. Office, evidence locker, weapon safe, radio room, sleeping quarters, boathouse, fuel shed, emergency generator, airboat dock, holding pen for injured wildlife. Normal enough. Then he gave me the unofficial tour. He pointed to a canal behind the boathouse. Don't fish there. I thought he meant because it was restricted. He didn't explain. He pointed to a half-sunken boardwalk that disappeared into mangroves. Don't walk that after sunset. I nodded. He pointed across the water to a low island covered in cypress trees. That island isn't on any map. If it shows up on yours, turn the map face down. I laughed. He didn't. That was the first time I felt something shift in my stomach. Not fear yet, just the early shape of it. Inside the station, in the radio room, there was a wall of framed photos. Old wardens, rangers, search teams, wildlife crews, men and women in faded uniforms standing beside airboats, python bags, deer skulls, illegal traps, confiscated rifles, and massive alligators. Some photos went back decades. One caught my attention. It showed 5 rangers standing in front of the dock, maybe sometime in the late 70s. 4 of them looked at the camera. The 5th stood slightly behind the others, turned toward the water. His face was blurred. Not motion blurred, removed blurred, like someone had rubbed his features with a wet thumb. I leaned closer. Delacroix said, "Don't stare at that one." I straightened. Why? Because sometimes it notices. He walked out before I could ask whether that was a joke. Mara was the one who gave me the rules. It happened at dusk on my second day. The sky had gone orange over the sawgrass, and the water beyond the dock reflected it like rust. Mosquitoes gathered in clouds around the porch lights. Something large splashed in the canal behind the boathouse. I was checking my flashlight and radio for my first night patrol when Mara walked in holding a weathered green notebook. Not laminated paper this time, a notebook. The cover was cracked and swollen from humidity. The corners were soft. A strip of duct tape held the spine together. On the front, written in black marker, were the words, "Mudwater Night, rules written by rangers who made it back." She handed it to me. "Read the first page," she said. I took it. Captain already gave me the patrol route. "This isn't the route." "What is it?" "The reason some of us finish the route." I opened the notebook. The first page contained a numbered list written in different handwriting. Some lines were neat, some were scratched and hard enough to tear the paper. Some had been rewritten over older, crossed-out versions. Rule 1. Never launch an airboat after 10 p.m. unless 2 wardens are aboard. Rule 2. If you see red eyes above the water, count them in pairs. If the number is odd, leave the area immediately. Rule 3. Do not answer your radio if dispatch calls from Channel 13. We do not have a Channel 13. Rule 4. If an alligator follows the boat for more than 5 minutes without blinking, do not shoot it. Rule 5. Never step onto a dry patch of land that was not there during daylight. Rule 6. If you hear a baby crying in the mangroves, mark the location and leave. Do not search. Rule 7. Do not remove fishing line from a dead tree after dark, even if something is tangled in it. Rule 8. If your spotlight catches a ranger standing knee-deep in water, check for their reflection before approaching. Rule 9. If the frogs stop all at once, turn off your engine and do not speak until they start again. Rule 10. Do not let anyone wearing a wet uniform into the station. Rule 11. The old boardwalk has 13 planks after sunset. If you count 14, walk backward to the dock. Rule 12. If something knocks on the bottom of the boat, knock once on the engine housing and wait. Rule 13. Never follow lantern light through sawgrass. Rule 14. If you find a deer carcass hanging from a cypress branch, do not cut it down. Rule 15. At 2:22 a.m., do not look toward the water tower. Rule 16. If a ranger in an old uniform asks for your badge number, give them the station number instead. Rule 17. If the swamp says your name, go inside before it says it twice. I read the rules slowly. Then I looked up at Mara. She watched me with the tired patience of someone who had seen this exact reaction before. I said, "This is a joke." "No." "Some kind of hazing?" "No." "Then why wasn't this in training?" "Because training is written for things the department admits exist." I stared at her. Outside, something splashed again. Closer. Mara nodded toward the notebook. Every rule in there came from a report that got rewritten. What does that mean? It means the first version told the truth. And the second? The second could be filed. I flipped through the notebook. There were more pages, more rules, notes, dates, coordinates, names crossed out, drawings of islands, channels, and strange symbols carved into trees. Do I need to memorize all this? For tonight, first page, and later, if there is a later, you'll keep reading. I didn't like how she said that. Delacroix stepped into the radio room behind her. You give him the book? Mara nodded. He looked at me. Scared yet? I forced a smile. Should I be? He gave me the same flat look Cole had given me in another life, another story, another bad place with rules. Yes. That was all. At 8:30 p.m., Mara and I launched the airboat. The Everglades at night look nothing like they do in tourist brochures. No golden sunset, no sparkling water, no smiling families in sunglasses. Just black water, black grass, black trees, and the boat's spotlight cutting a hard white tunnel through the dark. The airboat engine roared behind us, loud enough to rattle my ribs. Mara drove. I sat beside her with the route map clipped to a board, one hand on the spotlight controls and the other close to the radio. We were checking for illegal night fishing, poachers, injured wildlife, and trespassers. That was the official job. The unofficial job, apparently, was not letting the swamp notice we were new. For the first hour, it was normal. At least, normal for the Everglades. We passed gators floating low in the water, their eyes glowing red-orange in the spotlight. We saw herons sleeping in mangroves, turtles sliding off logs, and one python as thick as my thigh disappearing into grass. Mara pointed out illegal trap markers, old fire scars, nesting areas, and shallow channels where people like to hide boats. She was good, efficient, unimpressed by everything. That helped. Then at 9:47 p.m., my spotlight caught red eyes above the water. A lot of them. The eyes floated near a low bank of sawgrass, just high enough to belong to gators. I started counting automatically. 1 pair, 2 pairs, 3 pairs, 4 pairs, then one eye by itself. A single red point. I counted again. 9 eyes total. Odd number. Rule 2. If you see red eyes above the water, count them in pairs. If the number is odd, leave the area immediately. Mara, I said, I see it. The single eye blinked. None of the others did. Mara turned the boat. The airboat engine growled as she swung us wide, away from the bank. The single eye rose higher out of the water. Too high. Then higher and higher. The other eyes sank beneath the surface. The lone red eye lifted until it was nearly 6 feet above the water. No body visible, just one glowing eye in the dark, watching us leave. I did not ask what it was. That was my first smart decision. At 10:03 p.m., the radio crackled. Luis's voice came through. Mudwater Patrol, status check. Mara grabbed the mic. Mudwater Patrol, code 4. Copy. Weather says fog coming low from the east. Watch your markers. Copy. Normal. Then the radio clicked again. A second voice spoke. Also, Luis. Mudwater Patrol, switch to channel 13. My skin went cold. Mara's eyes flicked to me. Rule 3. Do not answer your radio if dispatch calls from channel 13. We do not have a channel 13. The voice came again. Mudwater Patrol, switch to channel 13 for emergency traffic. Mara turned the radio volume down. Not off. Down. The voice continued faintly under the engine noise. Mudwater Patrol, emergency traffic. Then it changed. It became my voice. Please switch to channel 13. I looked at Mara. She shook her head once. Do not answer. I didn't. The radio whispered with my voice again. Please, I'm in the water. Mara drove faster. At 10:26, we found the first boat. It was a small aluminum fishing boat tied to a mangrove root in a restricted area. No lights. No registration visible from our angle. No people. Mara cut the airboat engine. The sudden silence hit hard. The Everglades rushed in around us. Frogs, insects, distant splashes, night birds, water dripping from roots. Mara let us drift closer. Spotlight left, she said. I moved the beam. The aluminum boat rocked gently. Inside were 2 fishing rods, a cooler, a tackle box, and a pair of muddy shoes. No fishermen. Could be illegal, I whispered. Could be. Could be stranded. Could be. Are we checking? Mara looked at the mangroves. Slowly. We edged closer, using a push pole, not the engine. The air felt thick near the boat. The mangrove roots twisted down into the water like fingers. Then something knocked on the bottom of our boat. Once. Twice. 3 times. I froze. Rule 12. If something knocks on the bottom of the boat, knock once on the engine housing and wait. I looked at Mara. She nodded. I reached back and knocked once on the metal engine housing. Clang. Then we waited. The frogs kept calling. The insects kept buzzing. The aluminum fishing boat rocked. Under us, something knocked back once. Clang. Mara exhaled slowly. Good. What does that mean? It answered right. What if it didn't? Then we'd be in the water. I did not ask more. We searched the empty boat from a distance. Mara called in the registration number once we found it under mud. Luis confirmed the boat had been reported stolen 3 months earlier. No active missing persons. No immediate emergency. We marked the coordinates and left. As we pulled away, the cooler in the fishing boat opened by itself. I saw a hand inside, not severed, not bloody. A full hand, palm up, fingers twitching. Mara didn't turn around. Neither did I. At 11:14 p.m., the frogs stopped, all at once. One moment, the swamp was screaming with life. The next, total silence. Even the engine seemed quieter, though I knew that was impossible. Mara cut the engine immediately. Rule 9. If the frogs stop all at once, turn off your engine and do not speak until they start again. The airboat drifted. I held my breath. Silence in the Everglades is not peaceful. It feels like the whole world is hiding. The boat rocked slightly. Something moved in the sawgrass to our right. A long, slow movement, not wind, something parting the grass. Mara stared forward. I stared at my knees. Do not speak. The movement came closer. Water rippled against the hull. Then a voice whispered from the grass. Mara? She did not move. The voice came again. Mara Bell? Her jaw tightened. Still no speaking. The grass shifted beside the boat. Something breathed, wet, close. Then it whispered my name, not my first name, my full name, the one I had not said since arriving. My mouth went dry. Mara slowly reached over and pressed one finger against my lips. Do not speak. The voice in the grass laughed softly. Then it began listing things. My birthday, my mother's maiden name, my old apartment number, the name of my first dog, the street where I broke my arm when I was 12. Every detail was correct. Every word was whispered in a different voice. Some male, some female, some child. Some voices I recognized, some I didn't. Then it said my name again. Rule 17. If the swamp says your name, go inside before it says it twice. It had said my name once earlier. Now it had said it again. But we were on the water. There was no inside. I looked at Mara in panic. She shook her head slowly. Not now, not yet. The thing in the grass whispered, too late. Then the frog started again, all at once. The sound returned so violently, I flinched. Mara started the engine and drove hard. She didn't speak until we were moving fast through open water. Then she said, when Rule 17 happens on patrol, inside means station. So we go back? Yes. Now? Yes. The relief lasted about 4 seconds. Then the radio crackled. Luis's voice came through. Mudwater Patrol, return to station. Repeat, return to station. Mara grabbed the mic. Already en route. Static. Then Luis said, "Negative, do not return, station is occupied." Mara went still. The radio continued in Luis's voice, lower now. "Do not return." I looked at her. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer. Ahead, fog rolled across the water. Low, white, thick, it moved against the wind. Mara slowed. The GPS flickered. The route map on my lap curled at the edges, as if wet. Then a new island appeared ahead. Low land, cypress trees, dry ground, not on the map. Rule 5. Never step onto a dry patch of land that was not there during daylight. "We're not stopping," I said. Mara's face was pale in the dashboard glow. "No," but the airboat engine sputtered, once, twice, then died. The sudden silence was worse than before. We drifted toward the island. I tried the radio. Mudwater Station, patrol requesting status. Static. Then Channel 13 lit up on the display. We both stared. The radio spoke in my voice. "Come ashore." Mara reached for the starter. The engine coughed, but didn't catch. The island drifted closer. That's what it looked like. Not that we drifted toward it. It drifted toward us. Tree roots slid through water. Mud lifted itself from below. Cypress knees rose like knuckles. The shore extended slowly, patiently, until the boat bumped soft mud. A lantern appeared between the trees. Rule 13. Never follow lantern light through sawgrass. The lantern swayed, not in a hand I could see, just floating. Mara whispered, "Do not look at it too long." I looked away, too late. The lantern glow was warm, inviting. It made me think of cabins, dry socks, coffee, human voices, safety. Then someone on the island called my name. Third time. Mara snapped, "Don't answer." The airboat rocked. Something knocked underneath. Tap, tap, tap. I reached for the engine housing. Mara grabbed my wrist. "No, but Rule 12, not on land." The knocking continued. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice came from under the boat. "Luis, let me up." Mara's eyes widened. "Luis is at station," I whispered. She didn't respond. The voice under the boat said, "Mara, please." It got inside. Her face changed, not fear, guilt. The lantern moved closer between the trees. I saw shapes behind it now. People, rangers, old uniforms, modern uniforms, wet uniforms. Rule 10. Do not let anyone wearing a wet uniform into the station. But we were not at the station. Again, gaps. Again, the swamp knew them. The figures stopped at the edge of the island. Water dripped from their sleeves, their hats, their badges. One stepped forward into the lantern glow. He wore an old ranger uniform, green shirt, brown trousers, wide-brimmed hat. His face was blurred, like the photo in the radio room. He looked at Mara, then at me. "Badge number," he said. "Rule 16. If a ranger in an old uniform asks for your badge number, give them the station number instead." My voice shook. "Station 9B. The blurred ranger tilted his head. "Badge number," Mara answered for herself. "Station 9B. The wet rangers shifted. The blurred one smiled without a mouth. "Good." Then he pointed toward the lantern. "Your station is occupied," Mara said. "By what?" The blurred ranger's face sharpened slightly, just enough to show eyes. Deep black, full of water. "By who you let in." Mara said nothing. I looked at her. "What does that mean?" The voice under the boat whispered again. "Mara, I'm cold." Her hand tightened on the steering controls. The blurred ranger pointed at me. "New Warden." I didn't answer. "You want to make it back?" I said the only thing I could think to say. "Station 9B. The old ranger laughed. The wet rangers behind him laughed too. Then he said, "Read the next page." I looked down at the notebook. I didn't remember bringing it on the boat, but it was there on my lap, open. The first page of rules was wet now. Ink ran down the paper like black tears. Mara whispered, "Don't," but the page turned by itself. On the next page, written in fresh ink, was one new rule. Rule 18. If Station 9B is occupied, do not return by water. The lantern went out. The island vanished. The airboat dropped hard into open water. The engine roared back to life by itself. For 1 second, I thought we were safe. Then the station lights appeared ahead through the fog. Impossible. We had been facing away from it. The dock lights glowed yellow. The radio tower blinked red. The boathouse door stood open, and on the dock, under the porch light, stood Luis Ortega. Wet uniform, bare feet, smiling. Mara killed the engine, but the airboat kept moving toward him. Mara killed the engine. The airboat kept moving. That should have been impossible. Airboats do not glide like canoes. They do not quietly drift forward with purpose after the engine dies. They're loud, heavy, ugly machines that need force behind them. Without the fan, we should have slowed. Instead, the boat slid across the black water toward Station 9B, like something underneath had hooked us and started pulling. Ahead, the dock lights glowed through the fog. The boathouse door stood open. The radio tower blinked red, and Luis Ortega stood barefoot on the dock in a soaked uniform, smiling at us. Water dripped from his sleeves, from his hair, from the hem of his shirt. His radio was clipped to his shoulder, but the cord dangled loose, cut cleanly in half. Rule 10. Do not let anyone wearing a wet uniform into the station. The problem was, he was already at the station. Mara stared at him with a look I had not seen on her before. Not fear, recognition. Like this had been waiting for her for a long time. The airboat bumped against the dock, softly. Luis raised one wet hand. "About time," he called. His voice sounded perfect. That made it worse. I had only known Luis for 2 days, but I knew his voice. Warm, slightly raspy, always sounding like he was halfway through a joke. The thing on the dock had it exactly. Mara did not move. I whispered, "That's not Luis." She said nothing. The thing wearing Luis laughed. "You two just going to sit out there?" No answer. "Fog's getting bad." Still nothing. "You don't want to be on the water tonight." Mara slowly reached down and picked up the green notebook. The pages were damp now, curled and swollen from water that had not touched anything else on the boat. She opened it. Rule 18 was still there. If Station 9B is occupied, do not return by water. I looked from the notebook to the dock. We returned by water. "No," Mara said quietly. "We haven't stepped off yet." That was the first hopeful thing I had heard all night. Then the airboat lurched. A rope had appeared around the front cleat. I didn't see Luis throw it. I didn't see anyone tie it. It was just there. The boat pulled tighter against the dock. Luis smiled wider. "Come on, Mara," he said. "Don't make me stand out here all night." She finally spoke. "Where's Delacroix?" Luis blinked. "Inside." "Where inside?" "Radio room." "What's he doing?" Luis's smile twitched. "Captain stuff." Mara's hand moved toward her sidearm. "Wrong answer." The thing wearing Luis tilted its head. Then, from inside the station, Captain Delacroix's voice shouted, "Mara, get in here!" Relief flashed across my body before I could stop it. Mara did not react. Delacroix shouted again from the building. "Bring the new kid!" Mara closed the notebook. "Do not answer him." But that sounded, "Do not answer him." Luis looked past us into the fog. His smile vanished. "You shouldn't have gone to the island," Mara said. "You shouldn't be wet." For a second, everything was still. Then Luis opened his mouth. Water poured out. Not a trickle, not vomit. A steady stream of black swamp water spilled over his lips and down his chin, splattering onto the dock boards. His shoulders jerked. His eyes stayed fixed on us. The radio in the boat crackled. My own voice whispered through it. "Station 9B is occupied." Mara grabbed her knife and cut the rope. The airboat drifted back half a foot. Luis lunged. His hand slapped onto the side of the boat, fingers gripping the metal edge. His nails were gone. His fingertips were pale and soft, like they had been underwater for days. "Don't leave me out here," he said. Mara hit his hand with the butt of her flashlight. The fingers bent backward. No crack, no pain, just bent. Luis looked at his own ruined hand with mild interest. Then he smiled again. "You always were mean." Mara shoved the push pole against the dock and forced the airboat away. The engine was still dead. The fog thickened behind us. The station lights flickered. Then every door on the building opened at once. Office door, boathouse door, fuel shed door, sleeping quarters door, radio room door. From inside came voices. Luis, Delacroix, people I didn't know, a woman crying, a man praying, children laughing, all of them calling Mara's name. Mara started the engine. It coughed once. Nothing. She tried again. The fan sputtered, then died. Behind us, Luis stepped off the dock. Not into a boat, not onto a step. He stepped directly onto the water. His bare foot pressed into the black surface without sinking. Then the other. He began walking toward us across the swamp. Mara grabbed the notebook again and flipped pages fast. "What are you looking for?" I asked. "Something about returning by land." "There's land?" "There's always land if the swamp wants you to suffer." That was not comforting. The notebook pages stopped on a hand-drawn map, not the official route map. This one had been drawn in pencil, with notes in different handwriting. It showed Station 9B, the dock, the boathouse, the canal, the old boardwalk, the water tower, and a narrow trail through mangroves marked "Dry Walk. Use only if station is occupied." Under it was a warning: do not take the boardwalk if there are 14 planks. Mara looked toward the half-sunken boardwalk behind the station. The one Delacroix had told me not to walk after sunset. It began near the boathouse and disappeared into mangroves. "We need the boardwalk," she said. I stared at her. "Rule 11 says if the old boardwalk has 14 planks, walk backward to the dock. Then count carefully." Luis was halfway to us now, walking across water. Every step made no ripple. Mara tried the engine one more time. This time it roared alive. She slammed the throttle. The airboat jerked backward from the dock, spun hard, and shot across the water. Luis stayed standing where he was, watching us leave. Then he sank straight down. No splash, no struggle, just dropped through the surface like the water had opened for him. We swung around the far side of the station, staying just beyond the dock lights. Mara aimed for a muddy bank near the start of the old boardwalk. The second the boat touched mud, she killed the engine. This time, it stayed dead. "Out," she said. We climbed into ankle-deep mud. My boots sank instantly. The air smelled like rot and diesel. The station stood to our right, lit and wrong. Every open doorway black inside. The boardwalk waited ahead, narrow and crooked, hovering inches above the swamp. Mara handed me the notebook. "Count planks." "What if I count wrong?" Don't. She stepped onto the first plank. It groaned under her boot. I followed. 1, I whispered. She stopped. Do not whisper. What? Count in your head. Right, of course, because apparently even numbers could be dangerous if spoken where the swamp could hear. We moved forward slowly. 1, 2, 3. The boardwalk was slick with algae. 4, 5. Mosquitoes swarmed my face. 6, 7. Behind us, something splashed near the dock. 8, 9. From the station, Delacroix's voice shouted, "Mara, stop!" 10. Mara did not stop. 11. The boardwalk curved into mangroves. 12, 13. I stepped onto the 13th plank and froze. There was another plank in front of me. 14. My stomach dropped. Mara had already stepped onto it. She looked down, then slowly looked back at me. 13? She asked. I shook my head. Her face hardened. Rule 11. The old boardwalk has 13 planks after sunset. If you count 14, walk backward to the dock. The dock was behind us. The occupied station was behind us. Luis was somewhere in the water. And now the rule wanted us to walk backward toward all of it. Mara whispered, "Damn it." The 14th plank shifted beneath her boot. Not wood. Something under the algae moved. It flexed like a tongue. I grabbed her vest and pulled. She stepped backward onto the 13th plank. The 14th plank bent upward, not breaking, lifting. It peeled away from the boardwalk, long and wet and pale underneath. A mouth opened along its center. Rows of tiny needle teeth glistened where wood grain should have been. Mara raised her pistol. I grabbed her wrist. "Rule 4, I said. She stared at me. "That's about alligators. Do not shoot it." For a second, she looked like she might argue. Then the false plank hissed. From the station, Delacroix shouted, "Shoot it!" That decided her. She lowered the gun. We began walking backward, slow, careful. I kept my eyes on the false plank. Mara kept her eyes over my shoulder, toward the dock. The false plank settled back down, as if disappointed. The boardwalk seemed longer going backward. The mangroves leaned inward. Branches brushed my shoulders. Something wet trailed across the back of my neck. I did not turn. Behind me, Mara's breathing changed. "What?" I said. "Keep walking." "What do you see?" "Wet uniforms." My pulse spiked. "How many?" "Too many." I almost turned. She snapped, "Eyes forward." I kept my eyes on the false plank as it slowly receded into darkness. Then the frogs stopped. All at once. Rule 9. If the frogs stop all at once, turn off your engine and do not speak until they start again. We had no engine running, so we stayed silent. I took another backward step, then another. The boardwalk creaked under us. In the silence, I heard breathing beneath the planks, not ours. Something under the boardwalk inhaled as we moved. Mara's boot hit the mud at the start of the boardwalk. We were back. The frogs started again. I turned carefully. The dock was ahead. Station 9B glowed with every light on. Between us and the dock stood a line of rangers in wet uniforms. Old uniforms, new uniforms, torn uniforms. Uniforms with badges darkened by water, faces pale, eyes black, hats dripping. At the front stood the blurred ranger from the island. His face was clearer now, not fully, but enough to see a mouth. He smiled. "Good counting," he said. Mara lifted her chin. "Station 9B. The blurred ranger nodded like he approved. "Still remember." "What do you want?" she asked. "To be remembered properly." Mara's jaw tightened. "You were written down." "No," he said. "We were filed." The wet rangers behind him shifted. A sound moved through them. Not speech, paper, like reports being stacked, signed, stamped, and buried. The blurred ranger looked at me. "New Warden, ask her about the night they changed the first rule." Mara said, "No." He turned his wet face toward her. "You didn't tell him? Not now. When then?" The rangers laughed softly. Mara took a step back. The blurred ranger pointed toward the station. "Luis let us in." "That isn't Luis. It is enough of him." "What did he do?" "He answered channel 13. Mara closed her eyes. The radio on my shoulder crackled. I nearly jumped. Luis's voice came through. "Mara, I'm sorry." Her face twisted. "Mara, I thought it was you." The blurred ranger smiled. He switched channels. He opened the door. He gave his badge number. The station lights flickered. Inside the radio room, I saw someone move. Real Luis? Fake Luis? Something else? The blurred ranger stepped closer. "The station is occupied because one of yours invited the swamp in. That means the old rule applies." Mara whispered, "No." I looked at her. "What old rule?" She didn't answer. The notebook in my hand opened by itself. Pages flipped violently until they stopped near the back. The handwriting there was older, faded. The page was titled, "If Station 9B is occupied." There were 3 rules. A. Do not return by water. B. Do not let the occupied speak over the tower. C. Before dawn, one warden must enter the station and ring the dry bell. I looked up. "The dry bell?" Mara was pale. "In the radio room." "What does it do?" The blurred ranger answered. "It tells the swamp the station is closed." "That sounds good." His smile widened. "It also tells the swamp who closed it." "Of course." Mara took the notebook from me and shut it. "I'm going in." "No," I said immediately. "Yes." "Why you?" "Because I know the station. Because of Luis." She didn't answer. That was answer enough. The wet rangers parted, leaving a path toward the station. I hated that. Nothing good parts politely. Mara looked at me. "You stay outside." "Absolutely not." That was not a request. "You told me earlier the first rule says 2 wardens after 10. Airboat rule. Still a rule." She almost smiled. Almost. Then her face went hard again. "Fine. You stay behind me. You do exactly what I say. You do not let anyone wet touch you. You do not answer Luis. You do not answer Delacroix. You do not answer me unless I am dry." I looked at her soaked boots from stepping in mud. She saw me looking. "Wet uniform," she said. "Not wet boots. Don't get clever." We moved toward the station. The wet rangers watched us pass. As I stepped beside the blurred one, he leaned close and whispered, "At 222, look at the tower." Rule 15 said not to. I did not answer. His mouth brushed my ear without touching it. "Ask Mara why she looked." I kept walking. The station porch was slick with water. The front door hung open. Inside, the lights flickered. The main room looked normal at first. Desks, filing cabinets, maps, coffee pot, evidence fridge, a corkboard full of notices, muddy boot prints across the floor. Then I saw the prints went across the ceiling too, bare, wet footprints, walking from the front door toward the radio room. Mara saw them. "Don't look up again," she said. I lowered my eyes. The air inside the station was cold and damp. Too damp. Every surface glistened. The walls sweated. Papers curled. Radios crackled on empty desks. From somewhere down the hall, Delacroix called, "Mara?" She did not answer. "New kid?" I kept my mouth shut. "Good," Delacroix said. "You're learning." That voice came from the sleeping quarters to our left. The radio room was ahead. Its door was shut. A strip of yellow light glowed beneath it. Mara stopped 10 feet away. Dry Bell is inside. What else is inside? Depends. On what? Who it wants more. The door opened inward by itself. Luis sat in the dispatcher chair. Dry, completely dry, uniform neat, hair normal, boots on, shoulder radio intact. He looked exhausted, human. "Mara," he said. She raised her gun. He lifted both hands. "It's me." She didn't speak. He looked at me. "You saw the doc. I know what you saw. That wasn't me." I wanted to believe him. That was the worst part, because he looked terrified, because he looked ashamed, because humans are built to respond to fear in other humans. Luis swallowed. I answered channel 13. I thought it was Captain. The board lit up, and then the water started coming through the speaker. I locked myself in here. Mara said nothing. Luis looked at her desperately. "You know me." Her voice was flat. "Badge number." He answered immediately. "Station 9B. Mara's gun lowered a fraction. Then Luis smiled, just slightly, too slightly. "See," he said. "I remember the rules too." Mara fired. The shot blew apart the radio behind him. Luis screamed, but not from pain, from rage. His face split down the middle, water pouring from the crack. His body collapsed into the dispatcher chair, folding like wet cloth. The room lights went out, only the radios glowed. Mara grabbed my arm and pulled me inside. "Bell!" The dry bell hung beside the radio tower control panel. It was small, brass, mounted on the wall with a rope beneath it. Too simple, too easy. I stepped toward it. Every radio in the room came alive. Voices poured out. Luis begging, Delacroix shouting, the blurred ranger laughing, my own voice saying my full name, Mara's voice saying, "Don't ring it." I looked at the real Mara. She stood by the door, gun raised, facing the hallway. "Ring it," she said. The radio Mara said, "If you ring it, she dies." I reached for the rope. The radio with my voice whispered, "Badge number." I said, "Station 9B." The radio hissed. A wet hand came out of the broken speaker. I pulled the rope. The bell rang once, small, clear, dry. Every radio went silent. Outside, the swamp screamed. Not an animal scream, not human either. A huge layered cry that came from water, mud, grass, roots, insects, birds, and things older than all of them. The station shook. Mara shouted, "Again!" I pulled the rope. The bell rang a second time. Water burst from under the radio room door, flooding around our boots. Hands pressed against the windows from outside. Wet uniforms appeared in the glass. The blurred ranger stood among them. His face was almost clear now, and he was smiling. Mara yelled, "Third time!" I grabbed the rope. Then the clock above the radio desk clicked. 2:22 a.m. Rule 15. At 2:22 a.m., do not look toward the water tower. I was not looking toward the water tower. I was looking at the bell. Then every window in the radio room turned black, not dark, reflective, like mirrors. In the glass, I saw the water tower behind me. Impossible angle, impossible reflection. At the top of the tower stood a man in an old ranger uniform, the blurred ranger, except now his face was clear, and Mara was staring at him, not the reflection, the real tower outside. Her face had gone slack. "Mara!" I shouted. She did not move. The ranger on the tower raised one hand. In his palm was a badge. Mara whispered, "Evan." The water on the floor rose to our ankles. The rope slipped in my hand. "Mara!" She took one step toward the window. The wet uniforms outside began knocking. Tap, tap, tap. The bell rope jerked upward, pulled by something above the ceiling. I held on with both hands. The old ranger on the tower spoke through every dead radio at once. Mara Bell. Badge number. She opened her mouth. I knew what she was about to do. I tackled her. We hit the floor hard, splashing into cold black water. She cursed, fought me, and nearly drove an elbow into my jaw. "Don't say it!" I shouted. She froze. Her eyes cleared. The old ranger's voice deepened. "Badge number." Mara clenched her teeth. Then, slowly, she said, "Station 9B." The windows cracked. The wet rangers outside screamed. I rolled off her and grabbed the bell rope again. Something above pulled back. Hard. The rope burned my palms. Mara crawled over, grabbed it too, and together we pulled. The bell rang a third time. The water dropped instantly, not drained. Dropped, like it had never been there. The radios died. The lights returned. The windows cleared. The station stopped shaking. For one perfect second, there was silence. Then someone clapped from the doorway. Slow, mocking. Delacroix stood there, dry uniform, captain's badge, normal face. He looked at the broken radio, the wet floor, the collapsed thing that had pretended to be Luis, then at us. "Well," he said, "that was stupid." Mara pushed herself up, breathing hard. "Captain," he smiled. "Who else?" I looked at his boots. Dry. His uniform. Dry. His badge number. Visible. Still, something felt wrong. Mara must have felt it too. She did not lower her gun. Delacroix looked disappointed. "After all that, Belle?" She said, "What did you tell me on my first night?" He sighed. "Mara, what did you tell me?" His face hardened. "That fear is useful until it becomes worship." She lowered the gun slightly. That sounded real, too specific to fake. Then Delacroix turned to me. "New kid, badge number." Mara's gun snapped back up. Delacroix smiled wider. "Just checking." The notebook on the floor opened by itself. A new line wrote itself beneath the old rule. "If the captain asks for your badge number after the dry bell rings, run." Mara saw it. So did I. Delacroix saw us see it. His smile vanished. "Don't," he said. Mara grabbed my vest and shoved me toward the hall. "Run!" We ran. Behind us, Delacroix laughed. The station hallway stretched longer than before. Doors appeared where there had been walls. The sleeping quarters door opened to black water. The evidence room door opened to sawgrass. The supply closet opened to a cypress island under moonlight. At the end of the hall, the front door looked impossibly far away. Mara fired twice behind us without slowing. Something wet hit the wall. Delacroix's voice followed us. "Station 9B is not closed." The floor tilted. We crashed into the main room. The front door slammed shut. Mara went for it. I saw movement through the side window. The water tower. No, I looked away. Mara kicked the front door. Once, twice, it burst open. We stumbled onto the porch. The station yard was empty. No wet rangers, no Luis, no Delacroix. The dock lights were off. The boathouse door was closed. The fog had thinned. For a second, it almost looked normal. Then the radio tower blinked red. Once, twice, 13 times. Mara whispered, "No." From the tower speaker, Channel 13 began broadcasting. Luis's voice, Delacroix's voice, the blurred ranger's voice, then mine, then Mara's, all repeating the same message. "Station 9B is open." Across the water, red eyes appeared, hundreds of them, pairs at first, then one single eye in the middle. Odd, watching. The notebook in my hand grew hot. I opened it. A final rule had written itself across a blank page in thick black ink. Rule 19. If the station broadcasts on Channel 13, burn the tower before sunrise, or the swamp will answer. Mara looked at the radio tower, then at me, then past me, toward the water. A shape rose near the dock. Luis, wet uniform, bare feet. Behind him rose Delacroix, then the blurred ranger, then dozens of wet uniforms breaking the surface one by one. Mara swallowed hard. "The fuel shed," she said. The red light on the tower blinked again, and every voice in the swamp said my name at once. Every voice in the swamp said my name at once. Not shouted, not screamed, said. Hundreds of voices, layered together across the water, sliding through sawgrass, leaking from mangrove roots, rising from the black surface around the dock. My full name, the name my mother used when I was in trouble, the name on my badge, the name written in department files, training records, payroll, emergency contact forms. The swamp knew it now. Rule 17 had said, if the swamp said your name, go inside before it said it twice. That rule no longer mattered. We were outside. The station was occupied. The tower was broadcasting on Channel 13, and the swamp had said my name more times than I could count. Mara grabbed my vest and shoved me toward the fuel shed. "Move!" I moved. Behind us, the tower speaker crackled again. "Station 9B is open." The words rolled across the water. The red light blinked 13 times. Across the dock, shapes rose from the swamp. Luis first, still smiling, wet uniform, bare feet, water streaming from his sleeves. Then Delacroix, or what had been using him. Then the blurred ranger, his old uniform plastered to his body, his face almost fully formed now. Behind them, dozens of wet rangers climbed out of the water. Some crawled onto the dock. Some stood knee-deep near the bank. Some rose among the sawgrass, water pouring from their hats. The frogs had stopped again. There were no insects, no birds, no engine hum, only the tower. Station 9B is open. Mara reached the fuel shed and fumbled through her keys. Her hands were shaking. That scared me more than anything else had. Mara Bell had stayed calm through impossible islands, fake Luis, wet uniforms, the old boardwalk, the dry bell, and the thing wearing Delacroix's face. But now she was shaking. I looked back. The wet rangers were walking toward us, slowly, not because they couldn't move faster, because they knew we had nowhere else to go. "Mara," I said, "I know." The key slipped. She cursed, tried again, and unlocked the shed. Inside were red fuel cans, oil drums, spare parts, rope, tarps, old batteries, and emergency flares. Mara shoved 2 fuel cans into my arms. "Take these. What's the plan? Burn the tower. With gasoline? Diesel mix, gas, whatever catches." "Will that even work?" "It better." The tower speaker repeated, "Station 9B is open." This time, the voice was mine. I almost answered. Not because I wanted to, because hearing yourself through a speaker makes your brain think you already spoke. It creates a space for response. Mara slapped the back of my helmet. "Don't." I blinked. I didn't say anything. "You were about to." She grabbed flares and a hatchet from the wall. Then she stopped, her eyes fixed on something behind me. I turned. A uniform hung from a hook in the shed. Old green shirt, brown trousers, wide-brimmed ranger hat. Dry, completely dry. It had not been there when we entered. Pinned to the shirt was a badge. The number was scratched off. Mara raised the hatchet. The uniform spoke. Not from a mouth, from the radio clipped to its shoulder. "Badge number." Mara swung. The hatchet tore through the shirt, hook, and radio. The uniform collapsed to the shed floor like an empty skin. Black water spread from beneath it. "Go," Mara said. We ran back out. The wet rangers were closer now. Louise stood at the edge of the porch. Delacroix was halfway across the yard. The blurred ranger waited near the base of the tower. That bothered me. He wasn't coming for us. He was guarding it. The tower stood behind the station, tall and rusted, bolted into a concrete pad. A chain-link fence surrounded its base. The gate was locked with a heavy padlock. Red cables ran from the tower into the radio room wall. The tower speaker crackled again. "Mudwater Night Patrol, switch to channel 13. It used Luis's voice this time. Mara didn't look at him. We crossed the yard, fuel cans banging against my legs. The mud sucked at my boots. Something moved under the surface. I felt fingers brush my ankle. I kicked free and kept running. Delacroix called from behind us. "Bell." Mara did not stop. "You rang the dry bell," he said. "You closed nothing." She kept moving. "You know why?" Her jaw tightened. "Because you didn't give the swamp what it wanted." Mara reached the chain-link gate and brought the hatchet down on the padlock. Once, twice. It didn't break. The wet rangers continued forward. The blurred ranger watched us from the other side of the fence. His face was clear now. I recognized him, not from life, from the photo in the station. The fifth ranger turned toward the water. The one Delacroix told me not to stare at. His features had returned. Dark hair, narrow face, hollow eyes, mouth too pale. His badge number was missing. Mara hit the lock again. Nothing. I dropped one fuel can, grabbed the black notebook from inside my jacket, and flipped through pages with muddy fingers. "What are you doing?" Mara snapped. "Looking for tower rules." "We don't have time." The pages flipped by themselves. They stopped at a drawing of the radio tower. Underneath it was a rule written in handwriting so old the ink had browned. "If the tower gate will not open, ask the first keeper what he heard." I looked through the fence at the blurred ranger. "The first keeper?" I said. Mara's face changed. "No." "What?" "Don't talk to him." "Mara, the lock won't break." "No." The tower broadcast again. "Station 9B is open." The wet rangers were 20 feet away. I stepped toward the fence. The blurred ranger smiled. "Station 9B, I said. His smile widened. "Good start." Mara grabbed my arm. I pulled free. "What did you hear?" I asked. The blurred ranger went still. Every wet ranger behind us stopped walking. Even the tower speaker fell silent. The blurred ranger's mouth opened. At first, only water came out, then words. I heard the swamp ask for a door. The notebook warmed in my hand. The old rule changed. Ask the first keeper what he heard. If he answers, ask what he gave. I swallowed. "What did you give?" Mara whispered. "Stop." The ranger looked at her, then at me. "My badge number." The tower gate clicked. The padlock opened and fell into the mud. Mara stared at me. "How did you know?" "I didn't. That's the problem." The blurred ranger stepped aside. Not enough to let us feel safe. Enough to let us in. We pushed through the gate. The concrete pad around the tower was slick with algae. Red cables pulsed faintly where they entered the ground, like veins feeding into mud. Mara started pouring fuel at the base of the tower. I poured mine over the cables, the control box, the wooden support braces someone had added years ago. The tower speaker crackled overhead. "New Warden." I ignored it. "New Warden." I kept pouring. "Badge number," I said. "Station 9B." The tower groaned. Mara struck a flare. Red light burst between us. The swamp reacted. All the wet rangers surged forward at once. They hit the chain link fence hard enough to bend it inward. Hands gripped the wire. Faces pressed against metal. Louis shouted. "Mara, don't!" Delacroix yelled. "That tower is the only thing keeping calls in." The blurred ranger said nothing. He only watched. Mara held the flare over the fuel. For 1 second, she hesitated. I saw why. If Delacroix was telling the truth, burning the tower might not close the station. It might release every broadcast, every voice, every false call, every name the swamp had collected. The notebook jerked in my hand. A fresh line wrote itself beneath Rule 19. Burn the tower before sunrise, or the swamp will answer. Then another line appeared. If the swamp answers, it will use every voice it has ever learned. The sky was beginning to gray at the edges. Sunrise was close. Too close. "Mara," I said. She dropped the flare. The fuel caught instantly. Fire raced across the concrete pad, up the soaked cables, around the tower base. Flames climbed impossibly fast, red and orange against the black metal. The tower screamed, not a mechanical sound, a living sound. Every wet ranger screamed with it. Louis collapsed to his knees. Delacroix clawed at his throat. The blurred ranger threw his head back, mouth wide, water and static pouring out together. The tower speaker blared. Channel 13 exploded into sound. Voices, hundreds, thousands, dispatch calls, ranger reports, last words, names, badge numbers, coordinates, pleas for help, babies crying in mangroves, men drowning in canals, women calling from islands that didn't exist, old captains giving orders, new wardens begging to be found. Then one voice rose above all the others. Mara's. Not the Mara beside me, a younger Mara. "Station 9B, this is Warden Bell. I have eyes on Ranger Evan Bell near the tower." I looked at her. Her face had gone white. The broadcast continued. "Evan, don't move. I'm coming to you," Mara whispered. "No." The tower played the past. A younger male voice answered. "Mara, don't come out here." Her brother. The old ranger had said his name in the radio room. Evan. Mara stood frozen as the burning tower screamed with the memory. Younger Mara's voice shouted, "Evan!" Then frogs stopped. Then water rushed. Then a man screamed. Then younger Mara sobbed. I looked at the tower. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." The broadcast cut into static. Mara staggered like she'd been hit. The blurred ranger reached through the chain link fence. His hand was no longer blurred. It was Evan's hand. "Mara," he said. She took one step toward him. The fire climbed higher. The tower cables snapped, whipping sparks across the yard. "Mara!" I shouted. She didn't hear me. Evan stood outside the fence in an old wet uniform, no badge number, face clear and terrible. "Give it back," he said. Mara's hand moved toward her badge. No, that was what it wanted. The first keeper had given his badge number. The tower wanted hers. The swamp wanted hers. I grabbed her wrist. She turned on me with wild eyes. "He's my brother." "No," I said. "It's wearing the part of him that got taken." "You don't know that. You told me wet uniforms don't come inside. We're outside." I hated that she was right. Evan smiled. "Badge number, Mara." The wet rangers began chanting. "Badge number, badge number, badge number." The fire reached the first speaker mount. Metal popped. The broadcast distorted. Mara's fingers closed around her badge. I did the only thing I could think of. I opened the notebook and shouted over the fire, "Station 9B." The wet rangers stopped chanting. Every head turned toward me. I had used the station number like a shield all night. Now I used it like a name. "Station 9B is closed," I said. The tower speaker cracked. The blurred ranger's smile vanished. Mara blinked. I said it again, louder. Station 9B is closed. The notebook grew hot enough to burn my hand. Words appeared across the page. Only the keeper may close the station. The first keeper stood beyond the fence. Evan, or the thing wearing him. But another thought hit me. The first keeper had given his badge number. That was why the tower had him. That was why his face had been blurred. That was why he could not close anything. The station needed a keeper with no number. I looked at my own badge. My number shone in the firelight. Mara saw what I was thinking. No. I reached for it. She grabbed my hand. No, absolutely not. The tower groaned, leaning slightly toward the station. Flaming metal rained down. The notebook added one more line. A badge number given freely cannot be taken. That sounded like a rule, or a trap, maybe both. Mara gripped my wrist harder. You give it your badge number, you become part of this place. Maybe. No, maybe. The swamp spoke my name. Once, across the water, from the tower, from every wet mouth at the fence. Then again. The second time, my knees buckled. Mara caught me. Rule 17 was long gone, but the effect wasn't. If the swamp says your name twice, it has a line on you. I could feel it. A hook under my ribs. Pulling toward the water. Pulling toward the tower. Pulling toward the open station. I ripped my badge free. Mara shouted, "Don't!" I threw it into the fire at the base of the tower. Then I shouted my badge number. Not my name, never my name, just the number. The tower stopped screaming. The fire turned white. Every wet ranger fell silent. The notebook snapped shut in my hand. For 1 second, I felt the swamp look directly at me. Not the creatures in it, not the dead, the swamp itself. Vast, ancient, patient, not evil in the way people mean evil, just hungry for openings, for names, for numbers, for doors. The fire swallowed my badge. The tower speaker crackled one last time. This time, it used my voice. Station 9B is closed. The tower collapsed. It fell straight down, folding in on itself instead of crashing outward. Metal bent like paper. Cables snapped and burned. The red light burst with a sharp pop. The broadcast died. The wet rangers vanished all at once, not into smoke, into water. They collapsed into puddles across the yard, soaking into mud, leaving only empty uniforms behind. Luis disappeared. Delacroix disappeared. The blurred ranger remained for 1 extra second. His face was Evan's. He looked at Mara, not smiling, not begging, just looking. Then he touched the place where his badge number should have been and nodded once. After that, he was gone too. The frog started again, loud, violent, alive. Mara and I stood inside the tower fence, surrounded by fire, twisted metal, and steaming mud. Then the station lights went out. Everyone. For the first time all night, Station 9B was dark. Mara grabbed my arm. Out! We stumbled through the open gate and away from the burning tower base. The eastern sky was brighter now. Sunrise was minutes away. The station sat silent. The boathouse door was closed. The dock was empty. The water was still. Too still. Then the front door opened. Captain Delacroix stepped out. Real Delacroix. Dry uniform. Badge visible. Face bloody. One arm hanging strangely. Luis came out behind him, pale and shaking, wrapped in an emergency blanket. Both of them looked at the burning remains of the tower, then at us. Luis said, "What did you do?" Mara looked at me. I didn't answer, because in the mud between my boots lay my badge, blackened, warped, but not gone. The number had been burned clean off. Mara saw it too. Her face changed. Not fear exactly, something worse, understanding. Delacroix limped toward us. You rang the dry bell? Mara nodded. You burned the tower? She nodded again. His eyes moved to my ruined badge. And you gave the number, I said. It seemed like the move. Delacroix stared at me for a long time. Then he laughed, not happily, not mockingly, like a man who had been waiting years for someone to make a terrible decision that still somehow worked. New kid, he said. You just made yourself the station keeper. I looked at Mara. She would not meet my eyes. What does that mean? Delacroix looked toward the swamp. It means when something wants in, it asks you first. I waited for him to say there was a way to undo it. He didn't. Of course he didn't. Sunrise broke over the Everglades. Golden light spread across the water, sawgrass, dock, station roof, and the burned skeleton of the tower. The swamp looked beautiful. That felt insulting. After everything it had done, after every voice it had stolen, after every wet uniform and false call and impossible island, morning made it look peaceful, alive, innocent. We spent the next 6 hours cleaning, filing, lying, and pretending. The official report said a lightning strike damaged the radio tower and caused electrical fire. The wet floors were blamed on burst pipes. Luis claimed he had been trapped in the radio room after a short circuit. Delacroix said he slipped during the fire response and injured his shoulder. No one mentioned Channel 13. No one mentioned the dry bell. No one mentioned Evan Bell. No one mentioned the old ranger with no badge number. And no one mentioned that my badge came out of the mud blank. At noon, Delacroix called me into his office. Mara was already there. The green notebook sat on the desk between them. It looked dry now, completely dry. Delacroix pushed it toward me. Open it. I did. The first page still had the original 17 rules. Rule 18 was there. Rule 19 was there. And beneath them, a new rule had appeared. Rule 20. If the station keeper has no badge number, do not ask for it. My mouth went dry. Mara looked away. Delacroix leaned back in his chair. You can request transfer. Will it help? He didn't answer. Mara did. No. I closed the notebook. What happened to Evan? Mara's jaw tightened. Delacroix looked at her, giving her the choice. She spoke without looking at me. My brother was stationed here 12 years ago. He was the first one to hear Channel 13 clearly. Before that, it was mostly static. Strange calls, bad coordinates, missing voices. He answered it? Yes. What did it ask? For his badge number. I looked down at my blank badge. He gave it? No, Mara said. I did. The room went silent. She swallowed. I thought I was helping. We were both on patrol. He was outside by the water tower, and dispatch kept asking for confirmation. I thought it was real. I thought if I gave his badge number, they'd send help. Delacroix's expression softened, just slightly. The swamp took the number, she said. Then it took him. I thought about the tower reflection, Evan asking for her badge, the wet uniforms chanting. You've been carrying that ever since. She gave a small, bitter smile. The swamp likes guilt, keeps it fresh. Delacroix tapped the notebook. You gave your number freely. Different thing. Why? Because you didn't give it to the swamp, he said. You gave it to the fire. That sounds like a technicality. Most surviving is technicalities. I hated how true that felt. I spent 3 days at Station 9B after that. No night patrols. No boat launches after dark. No Channel 13. No wet uniforms. A repair crew came to inspect the tower and left after 20 minutes, claiming the ground was unstable and the whole structure would need full replacement. They asked where the old tower equipment had gone. Nobody answered. On the 4th day, my replacement badge arrived from headquarters. Same name, same department seal, no badge number, just a blank space where the number should have been. I showed Delacroix. He nodded like he expected it. Mara looked sick. Luis refused to touch it. That night, I had my first keeper dream. I stood on the dock at Station 9B. The swamp was black and still. Across the water, red eyes appeared. Pairs. I counted them. 2, 4, 6, 8. Then one single eye opened in the center. Odd. The water beneath the dock knocked 3 times. Tap, tap, tap. I knocked once on the boards. The swamp knocked back once. Then a voice from the water asked, "Open?" In the dream, I answered without fear. Station 9B is closed. The red eyes sank beneath the surface. When I woke up, my boots were wet. There was mud on my floor, and the green notebook sat on my chest. I had left it in Delacroix's office. A new page had written itself. Keeper rules there were only 4. Rule 1, if the swamp asks permission, refuse politely. Rule 2, if the swamp uses your name, answer with the station. Rule 3, if the swamp offers a trade, ask what it already took. Rule 4, if the swamp sends back someone you miss, check if they are wet before you cry. I requested transfer anyway. Not because I thought it would free me, because I needed distance. Delacroix signed the paperwork. Mara drove me to the service road on my last morning. Neither of us said much. At the gate, she stopped the truck. "You saved me at the tower," she said. "You saved me before that. Doesn't make us even." No, she handed me the green notebook. "I can't take this. You're the keeper. I'm not even stationed here anymore." She looked toward the water. "That doesn't matter." I took it. The cover felt warm in my hands. Before I got out, Mara said, "If you ever hear Evan's voice, don't answer." I nodded. Then she added quieter, "If you hear mine, make me prove I'm dry." I said I would. I meant it. For almost a year, I worked inland, different post, different terrain. No airboats, no dock, no swamp outside the window. I started to believe the Everglades were behind me. Then hurricane season came. The first storm missed us but dumped enough rain to flood roads, ditches, fields, and parking lots. Water pooled everywhere. Brown water, standing water, moving water where it shouldn't move. The first call came through at 2:22 a.m. My radio was off, battery removed. Still, it crackled from my locker. Station 9B, I sat up in bed. The voice came again. Station 9B, not my name, not my badge number. The station. I opened the green notebook. A new rule had appeared under the keeper rules. Rule 5, the swamp does not end where the water stops. Outside my window, frogs started calling. There are no frogs near my apartment. Not usually. I went to the window. The street below was flooded ankle deep from storm runoff. In the orange glow of the streetlight, something stood in the water. A ranger, old uniform, wide-brimmed hat, dry, completely dry. That was somehow worse. He looked up at my window. His face was blurred again. In one hand, he held my old badge number. The one I had burned. The one I had given to the fire. He raised it toward me like an offering. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I didn't answer. It rang once, twice, 13 times. Then stopped. A voicemail appeared. I played it because I'm apparently still stupid. It was Mara. Her voice was shaking. Station 9B is flooded. Delacroix is missing. Luis is hearing channel 13 again. If you get this, do not come back by water. A pause. Then, behind her, another voice spoke. Evans. Mara, let him in. The message ended. I drove back before dawn. Of course I did. Some jobs don't end when you transfer. Some rules follow you because the thing that wrote them remembers your shape. I still carry the green notebook. I still have the blank badge. I still answer with the station number when something asks who I am. And if you ever find yourself in the Everglades at night and your radio switches to a channel that should not exist, turn it off. If it keeps speaking, turn the volume down. If it says your name, get inside before it says it twice. And if you see a ranger standing knee-deep in black water, smiling under a wet hat, check for their reflection before you approach. If they don't have one, leave. If they do have one, leave faster. Because the swamp learned a long time ago that uniforms make people trust what comes out of the dark. And somewhere beneath all that water, mud, sawgrass, and root, there are rangers who never clocked out. They are still answering calls, still waiting for backup, still asking for badge numbers. And now, whenever the frogs stop all at once, I hear the same voice from the water. Not Luis, not Delacroix, not Mara, mine. It whispers, Station 9B is open, and every time I open the notebook, strike a match, and answer the only way I know how. Not tonight.